So according to my calendar, which you can see here, it says that we are in December. And I mean, it is getting colder and people are getting excited. But I'm not talking about Christmas, if that's what you celebrate. I'm talking about the upcoming Star Wars movie Rogue One that's coming out later this week, and that is a great reason to be excited. Since Rogue One kinda sits between the original 6 movies in terms of storyline, I thought, you know what, it'll be a good idea to just go back and take a look at those 6 movies, kinda just refresh our memories a little bit as to what happened. That way everything is still fresh for when we see Rogue One later this week. And I mean guys, come on, it's Star Wars. I am a huge fan and I would use any excuse to make a video on Star Wars. Fans will understand. So this is Star Wars in 6 minutes. Spoilers, obviously. As you probably know, the original movies came out in confusing orders, right? You had the 4, 5, and 6 that came out in the 70s and 80s, and then you had the 1, 2, and 3 that came out in the early 2000s. And that, to somebody who doesn't watch Star Wars, can be a little confusing. But I'm gonna keep this video simple and talk about them in orders from 1 to 6. So let's start with the first movie, The Phantom Menace. The opening scene shows us 2 Jedis, Qui-Gon Jinn and Obi-Wan Kenobi, aboard a spaceship trying to stop the evil Trade Federation from taking over the planet Naboo, the home of the Queen. The Queen isn't safe on Naboo anymore, so the Jedis, they take her with them and plan to escort her to Coruscant. Now on their journey, their ship has to be repaired, so they make a little stop on a planet called Tatooine, and that's where they meet Anakin Skywalker, a young slave boy that turns out to be a very special boy. Qui-Gon, he senses something in the boy. He senses that the Force is strong in this one. He senses that maybe this is the boy that's supposed to fulfill the prophecy and bring the balance back to the Force. Their journey takes them to outer space and then eventually underwater, only to come back to Naboo to face the evil Trade Federation and their army of droids. With the help of the Gungans, they defeat the droids, and then Obi-Wan takes Anakin to train him as a Jedi. The second movie, Attack of the Clones, is set 10 years after the events of the first. Anakin is now grown up and he is now a young Jedi Padawan in training, still under the training of Obi-Wan Kenobi. The opening scene of the movie shows the Senator Padme Amidala, Anakin's future wife, arriving at Coruscant only to be almost killed by an assassination attempt. The Senate then assigns Obi-Wan to find out who was behind the assassination attempt, and they assign Anakin to take her someplace safe and protect her while Obi-Wan does his research. Obi-Wan then ends up on a planet called Kamino, where he learns of a clone army that has been in production for the Republic for many years. Meanwhile, Anakin takes Padme to Naboo, where he falls in love with her and gets married. But Anakin is a Jedi. You cannot get married as a Jedi, so they keep it a secret. Obi-Wan then ends up on a planet called Geonosis, where he learns of the Sith and Count Dooku's presence. He then records a message, tries to send it to the Jedi Council, but it never makes it. Instead, Anakin intercepts the message, and Anakin decides that he and Padme should go to Geonosis to help Obi-Wan. The movie ends with Obi-Wan, Anakin, Padme, and a bunch of other Jedis in an arena fighting off perhaps one of the coolest battles of my childhood. I mean, there were so many lightsabers, so many lasers going on, it was insane. The third movie, Revenge of the Sith, begins right with the action. We see a huge space battle that ends with Anakin having to pilot and land half of a huge burning ship on Coruscant. We quickly learn that Padme is now pregnant, which only aggravates the situation. Anakin then begins having some dreams that Padme is going to die at childbirth, and then he is influenced by Chancellor Palpatine, who by the way turns out to be the Sith Emperor, to join the dark side and become Darth Vader because that is the only way that he can save Padme. Anakin then betrays the Jedi Council and the Emperor executes Order 66, the death of all Jedi. Anakin and Obi-Wan then face off in a spectacular battle, while Yoda flees after fighting off the Emperor and goes into hiding. But guys, for those who actually watched the movie, like that scene where all the Jedis get killed by the clones, I mean that hit my heart, you know, that's probably like my most favorite scene of all the Star Wars movies that came out so far. The fourth episode, A New Hope, which is the first one that came out in 1977, we see a small farm boy on a planet called Tatooine. That boy is Luke Skywalker, none other than Anakin's son. Luke then teams up with the lovable sidekicks Han Solo, Chewbacca, and Obi-Wan, and they go and rescue Princess Leia because she has some information on a mega weapon that the Emperor has built. Their journey takes them deep into outer space, facing perhaps their largest opponent yet, the Death Star, a huge planet-sized weapon that is capable of destroying pretty much any planet with a single beam. Luke then joins up with the rebellion, they take the fight directly to the Empire in space, and they destroy the Death Star without missing any cliches. The fifth movie, Empire Strikes Back, shows us how the rebels were forced to hide on the icy planet Hoth to avoid the Empire. But it isn't too long before the Empire learns of their location and comes and invades the planet. Luke, then under orders from Obi-Wan, who is now talking to him through the Force, has to go to Dagobah to receive Jedi training from the most powerful Jedi to ever exist, Master Yoda, who was still in hiding ever since the events of the third movie. Han Solo, Leia, and Chewbacca then end up on a planet called Bespin, where they are used by Darth Vader as bait to get Luke to come there. When Luke finally arrives, he loses a lightsaber fight with Darth Vader and learns a terrible truth. He is the son of Darth Vader. Oh, and by the way, if you were wondering, this is the movie where Han Solo gets frozen. The sixth movie, Return of the Jedi, picks up right where the fifth left off. The Empire is now more than halfway done building a new Death Star, one that is twice as big and more than twice as powerful. Han Solo, Leia, and Chewbacca are now prisoners of Jabba the Hutt, a very fat and slimy crime lord. After being freed by Luke, they regroup with the rebel fleet and prepare for one final attack against the Empire. The attack then leads them to a planet called Endor, where they team up with the Ewoks, a teddy bear-like species, to fend off the Empire. Luke then ends up with Darth Vader and the Emperor in the same room and manages to get Darth Vader to join the light side and kill the Emperor. But unfortunately, Darth Vader doesn't make it and he dies as well, but he died a hero. The rebels and the Ewoks, they end up defeating the clones and destroying the Death Star for the second time. And of course, the movie ends with every single planet in a huge celebration. So there you have it. This was Star Wars in 6 minutes. I hope that this helped at least a little bit to kind of remember what happened in the original movies. Which is good if you're planning to go see Rogue One this weekend. And by the way, Rogue One sits right between the third and the fourth movie. So I hope that you are as excited as I am. So with that being said, thanks for watching. I hope that you've enjoyed it and I will see you all next week. Alright, that was it for this week's episode of Vlogs of Knowledge. I hope that you've enjoyed this Star Wars edition and that maybe you've learned something. If you did, please leave a like, share it to a friend, and subscribe to be notified when the next episode comes out. Remember that these episodes come out every single Monday, and if you've missed the previous one, there's a link on the screen. If not, there's a link in the description. Make sure to check it out, it's very interesting. As always, I'm your host, Darius Cos, and you can follow me on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. I'm very active. With that being said, thank you for watching, and I will see you all next week.